They asked my sister's kids what they wanted to eat, but when my kids spoke up, the room went silent like they didn't even exist. My heart dropped as I watched my children's smiles fade while everyone laughed and agreed to order what only my sister's kids wanted. In that moment, I realized my family had already decided who mattered, and it wasn't us. Before I go on, make sure you hit subscribe, share this video, and turn on notifications, because what happened next will shock you even more. I sat there pretending to sip my water, while my sister smirked and whispered, "Well, Chloe's kids are used to eating simple food anyway." The sting of her words hit harder than I could hide. My parents didn't defend us. My brother stayed quiet, and the kids I carried, raised and sacrificed for, were treated like outsiders at our own family dinner table. As the waiter came to take the order, I could see my kids' faces, confused, hurt, but trying to stay strong. My sister's kids shouted their choices proudly, and everyone laughed like it was a celebration. My children glanced at me, waiting for me to speak up. But before I could open my mouth, my mother said, "Let's just keep it easy. We'll go with their choice." My chest tightened. My children were about to eat something they didn't even like while the family acted as if their voices didn't matter. I wanted to explode, to scream, but instead I stayed quiet. Because deep down, I knew something they didn't, and that secret was going to change everything. But just when I thought the humiliation couldn't get worse, my sister leaned across the table and said something that made my kids' eyes water, and my blood boil. Her voice dripped with arrogance as she said, "Chloe's kids should be grateful we even invited them tonight. Otherwise, she can't even afford dinner like this on her own." The table erupted in laughter, and my kids lowered their heads, hiding their faces behind their tiny hands. That moment broke me. It wasn't about the food anymore. It was about respect, about dignity, and my family had just stripped that away from my children in front of everyone. I forced a smile, though inside I was shaking. My father added fuel to the fire, saying, "Chloe, you always chose the harder path in life. If only you had been smarter, you wouldn't be struggling now." I bit my lip so hard it nearly bled. Struggling? If only they knew. While they mocked me for years, I had worked day and night, building something in silence, something powerful. But I had never told a soul. The food arrived, and everyone dug in like royalty, while my kids poked at plates they didn't enjoy. My sister's husband leaned back in his chair and smirked. "Chloe, maybe you should ask your sister for some advice. She knows how to build a proper life." His words sliced through me, but instead of replying, I smiled politely. Because the truth was, my sister and her husband were drowning in debt, but they had no idea that the person they looked down on, me, held their future in her hands. My kids whispered softly, "Mom, we're not hungry." And that was when my resolve hardened. I wouldn't let them be humiliated again. I wrapped my arm around them, telling them quietly, "Don't worry, sweethearts. Tonight will be the last time they laugh at us." But just when I thought the night had reached its peak of cruelty, my brother raised his glass and made a toast. He looked at me with a smirk and said, "To family, especially the ones who actually bring something to the table." Everyone laughed again, and the sound echoed in my head. What they didn't know was that the contract I had signed just a week ago made me the most powerful person sitting at that table. And soon, very soon, they were going to find out in a way they would never forget. I held my glass without raising it, watching their smug faces glow under the restaurant lights. Every cruel laugh, every mocking word was carving itself into my memory. My kids sat silently, pretending to be invisible, and that was the moment I promised myself they would never feel small again. The waiter came by with the check, and as always, my sister's husband slid it toward my father like it was a family tradition. My father puffed out his chest, pretending to enjoy the role of provider, though everyone knew his finances weren't what they used to be. Still, he looked proud, until he glanced at me and sneered, "Chloe, don't even think of reaching for it. You've got enough on your plate already." The table chuckled again. I leaned back, keeping calm, though my heart was racing. What none of them knew was that I had been quietly running my own company for years. The contract I signed last week wasn't just any deal. It made me the majority owner of the very franchise this restaurant belonged to. In fact, by the end of the month, this branch and 3 others would be under my control. But instead of speaking up, I let them dig their own graves with insults. My sister whispered loud enough for me to hear. She probably doesn't even leave tips. Waiters hate customers like her. My kids looked at me with wide eyes, waiting for my reaction. I just smiled, kissed the top of their heads, and whispered, "Watch closely." The moment of truth came when the waiter returned with the card machine, but my father's card declined. His face turned red and the room grew quiet. He tried again, declined. My sister's husband pulled out his card next, forcing a laugh, but his too was declined. A heavy silence fell over the table. My sister's fake smile cracked, and she shifted nervously in her seat. Then, with all eyes on me, the waiter said the words that flipped the entire night. "Don't worry. Ms. Chloe, the bill is already covered by the new owner of this place." Every fork froze midair. My family stared at me in disbelief as the waiter handed me the receipt with my name signed at the bottom. My kids' eyes lit up with pride, but I wasn't done yet. Because what came next would shatter every ounce of arrogance left at that table. The silence was deafening. My sister's smirk vanished as fast as the color drained from my father's face. "New owner?" he repeated, his voice cracking. I leaned forward, finally breaking the mask I'd worn all evening. Yes. This restaurant and 3 more just like it belong to me now. My kids' little hands clutched mine under the table, their eyes sparkling with pride. For once, they weren't ashamed to be here. They were glowing. My sister's husband forced a laugh, trying to brush it off. "Oh, come on, Chloe, you're joking, right?" "You can't possibly." But before he could finish, the manager himself walked over and bowed slightly. "Congratulations again, Ms. Chloe. We're honored to have you here tonight. If you'd like, we can arrange the private room next time for you and your family." His words sliced through the table like a blade. My father's glass trembled in his hand. You bought this place? With what money?" "Don't lie to us, Chloe." His tone was sharp, but his eyes betrayed his fear. My sister's kids glanced at mine, confused, as if suddenly realizing the cousins they mocked weren't so less, after all. I calmly pulled out my phone, showing them the official contract. "I've been building my own business for years. While you all mocked me, I was working. I signed this deal last week. And guess what? Every franchise in this city that you love eating from answers to me now." My sister's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her husband swallowed hard, his arrogance replaced by panic. But we were going to ask your father for a loan tonight. We're drowning in debt." I tilted my head, smiling coldly. "And you chose this night to humiliate me and my kids? Interesting strategy." My kids sat up straighter, finally smiling, finally proud. But just when I thought the satisfaction had peaked, my brother slammed his hand on the table. "This doesn't change who you are, Chloe. Money can't erase years of failure." His voice was laced with venom, but I caught the flicker of desperation in his eyes. I leaned in, lowering my voice so the entire table hung on my words. "Failure? Let's talk about failure, because tomorrow morning your company is signing a partnership deal with mine. And the terms? Let's just say I'll be deciding your paycheck from now on." Gasps erupted around the table. My brother's face went pale, my sister's eyes widened in horror, and my father's pride shattered in front of everyone. But the real twist? I hadn't even revealed the biggest secret yet. That part. I was saving for last. The table sat frozen, every mocking smile erased, every arrogant word hanging heavy in the air. My kids leaned against me, their faces glowing with pride as if they finally understood why I kept quiet all these years. My father cleared his throat, trying to reclaim control. "You should have told us, Chloe. We're family. We could have guided you." His words felt hollow, nothing but desperation hiding behind them. I laughed softly, shaking my head. "Guided me? You never guided me. You mocked me, ignored me, and humiliated my children in front of their own cousins. The truth is, I didn't tell you because I wanted to see exactly how you'd treat me when you thought I had nothing. Their silence confirmed everything. My sister finally broke down, her voice trembling. Chloe, you know we've been struggling. Can you help us? Please, for the kids. I looked at her children, who earlier had laughed at mine, now staring with wide, scared eyes. My heart ached, but I didn't forget the humiliation my kids endured tonight. Help you? I said, leaning forward. You didn't think twice about crushing my kids' confidence. Why should I rescue yours? Her husband tried to jump in, but I cut him off. No, you made your choices. And now you'll live with them. Then I stood, placing my napkin gently on the table. From now on, my children will never sit here begging for respect. They'll walk in anywhere with their heads high, knowing their mother built something stronger than your pride, a future no one can take away. The waiter appeared again, this time addressing me directly. Your car is ready, Miss Chloe. The way he said my name, with respect, was the final blow to their egos. I held my kids' hands and walked out, leaving the table in stunned silence. Outside, under the city lights, my daughter whispered, Mom, I'm proud of you. My son added, They'll never laugh at us again. Tears welled in my eyes as I hugged them tight. And as we drove away, I realized this wasn't just revenge, it was justice. For every insult, every humiliation, every night I stayed awake building a future in silence. My family thought they had buried me under shame, but they never realized I was planting seeds. Now, those seeds had grown into an empire, and the same people who once mocked me would have no choice but to bow to me.